Hello, football family. Welcome into Huddle It Up Films Camp Chatter here with the guys from One Winning Pod. Peter, unfortunately, Chris is not with us tonight. And of course, Alec Polianis, One Winning Pod, here to talk about some defense heavy episode. And Alec, I'm just going to turn it over to you, buddy, and let you get this party started, let you MC it, do your thing, man.
Sure. Well, the big thing we wanted to talk to you about was the defensive scheme this year. Second year under McDonald, another opportunity, another year to change personnel to kind of focus on what they want this defense to look like long term. And I think we're starting to see with some of their personnel decisions that they've made during the offseason that there might be some changing of traditional scheme that we've come so used to here in Baltimore. But I think to lead off the episode, we got some news worth discussing of Broderick Washington getting an extension, 3 years, $17.5 million, 10 of it guaranteed, which feels like a team-friendly deal. You know, a player on the ascendancy, he could outperform that contract and gives him obviously the financial security too going into the season.
Great move. Great move. I love it. I like Broderick as a player. You've seen him progress every year. He was able to defend the run almost from the start. He's worked really hard on pushing the pocket, just easily controls offensive linemen. And you can see the straight arm that he's able to look past the offensive lineman who's blocking him into the backfield, track the running back very well. And with a player like this, Peter, the main thing I point to is it's great to have him locked up, not only because it's a good player and a fair deal, but also next year, Travis Jones is the only player who's firmly under contractual control. The rest of that room could turn over. So you don't want to go into next year with just Travis Jones on your roster and D-line and have to pay and have to draft all these new guys. So to get Broderick Washington done this early, I think is a huge W, a big win for the Ravens.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, for all the reasons you've stated, it's just incredible to see how he's really entrenched himself to being a consistent starter at this level. Fun fact, I had forgotten this. I'm not sure if I ever knew. He is the result of the Kari Vedvik trade back when we dealt Vedvik to the Vikings, or kind of,
Nice.
pulled one over on them for that. And really, it's crazy. I remember going back to this time, 2021, and we were talking about potential cuts for the Ravens. And I remember we were talking about Broderick Washington, as a guy who needed to step up and to show that he could make the roster. And now we're looking at him as, like you're saying, he might be the vet guy on the line next year. It's incredible that the Ravens continue to find these guys. And we'll see what this means for Matabike. I'm sure we're going to talk about that as well. But we do know that this is not something that the Ravens shy away from. They have several times given the contract to the guy who was drafted later. You saw Dennis Pitta over Dixon, Marshall Yanda over Osemele, Kelly Gregg stuck around over some guys who had higher draft capital than himself. So, yeah, this is a very team-friendly deal, and it's in the vein of what the Ravens like to do, how they develop these players. It's a great move, great for getting some stability going into next year. You love to see it.
I'm definitely glad to see that we got another defensive lineman. Like you said, Jason, only one under contract with Travis Jones going into next year. Now it's two. And I thought this was an interesting quote tweeted out by Ryan Mink. Apparently, Calais Campbell said after he signed in Atlanta that Broderick Washington he was playing so well that they were going to cut him. And he said he's a great young player. Love to get that seal of approval from Calais. I wish we had both. I'm going to miss that guy so much and all his contributions. But I guess in a way that kind of leads us into our discussion. So, Calais is gone. I think any defense would love to have a guy like Calais. Gives you a lot of versatility. But with that, we are now going to see these defensive linemen fill in snaps. And I think they're going to fill in the snaps a little bit differently than the way the line was set up before.
Sure. I think Matabike is going to benefit from Calais not being here in a strange way. I think Matabike is going to be in a different tax bracket than Broderick Washington. So as far as how Broderick's contract affects Matabike's, I don't think that they're the same. Broderick Washington signed for about $6 million a year. Matabike had 5.5 sacks last year as a defensive lineman. You look at the top defensive linemen, they're making between 20 and 28, 29, almost 30 million for a defensive tackle. So to get Broderick at 6, I mean that's a deal. It's it's not a devalued position as far as the NFL is concerned. These defensive tackles get paid. If Matabike pushes himself up into the 7-8 sack range for a defensive tackle, you guys know that's like getting well into the double digits, like 15 as an edge rusher.
15 a year.
It's hard to get sacks as a defensive tackle. So if he pushes himself up into the, even an extra couple of sacks, he is going to get paid massively next year. Matabike is a much more explosive player than we have anywhere else on the line, more explosive than Calais Campbell. So we could see Matabike, used more in these pure passing downs. We can move him around. Maybe we saw with Calais, there's a mismatch at left guard. We can put Matabike over there and let Broderick play 3 tech over the right guard. And in other words, just let Matabike be the focal point of the inside rush while you have run stuffers like Travis Jones, Michael Pierce, and Broderick Washington to accompany him. So Matabike is going to be kind of like the lead singer of this group, Peter.
Oh, absolutely. And, I think he'll be able to do it. The one thing that I think sometimes is talked about with Matabike is just with his first 2 seasons, we've seen a ton of splash plays. We've seen him have big games. Maybe just a little more consistency would be nice from him. And yeah, I really like what you're saying about how this is going to free him up. And if he's able to get a season with over 5.5 sacks, that would be huge. If you even look at some of the guys we've had, and we've had great guys here on this defensive line. 5.5 sacks that he had, that's tied with both Haloti Ngata and Calais Campbell for most sacks they ever had in a single season for the Ravens. There might have been an interior lineman who had more than that. If there was, her name's not clicking in my head at the moment, but
maybe Trevor Price. I think if you could count him as a D
Yeah.
end, D tackle, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess that would depend on where you wanted to actually categorize him. But yeah, I mean, I think we've seen some great stuff from Matabike early in his career, and he certainly has room to grow. So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see him with a bigger role and having to step up with Campbell out of here for this year.
We saw the Ravens defense historically have 2 defensive linemen on the field at a given time and also do about a 4-man pass rush. So given that, we're going to talk a little bit more about the outside linebackers that contribute to the pass rush. And there's been a lot of talk in the town about bringing in another piece, be it another Sam-like linebacker with Van Noy. And now there's talks of what's his name? Now I'm blanking on Clowney. He's coming over from the Browns, potentially, and kind of discuss how those guys could fit, and then obviously fit in with the people we already have.
Yeah, Van Noy, I think, would be a good fit because we don't know what's going on with Tyus Bowser. At least we don't. The Ravens might. But, my fear is that the Ravens don't really know what's going on with Tyus either. In other words, they know what the injury is, of course. But as far as like, hey, when's he coming back? When's he going to be 100%? Maybe those answers aren't as concrete as the Ravens would like. And if they don't have a linebacker, a traditional Sam, somebody who can drop in the coverage in certain situations versus certain teams, then to me, Van Noy makes a ton of sense as a sign. I think Clowney, on the other hand, fits right away. So I have more to say on that. But yeah, I think the need for Van Noy is more dependent on what is Bowser's status, which, of course, we don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, this is exactly the type of homework the Ravens need to be doing right now because, like you're saying, Bowser is critical to this defense right now. There is no one else on the roster currently who can do all the things that he can. He's incredibly versatile. You look at the player he's developed into, it reminds me a lot of Adalius Thomas. That it's not a perfect comparison, but I think, all the different things that both of those guys could do, all the different places you could line them up. Certainly critical. I mean, we've got Roquan Smith here. He's done a lot of things, but you really need a guy like that. He can play the Sam Bowser there. That's what's going to make our defense click. Really, he's one of the critical pieces. So, yeah, I mean, we really need him. as good as Vanoy has been in his career, he is older, so he wouldn't be able to give us everything that Bowser can. But if we need to go there, that's they're doing their homework, and hopefully they can bring one of these guys in. But obviously, Bowser being healthy is going to be the best case scenario for this defense.
I do think he's basically saying there's one slot left. I mean, I'm trying to think just from a pure numbers perspective. They couldn't bring in both of these guys.
Well, I think if Bowser's going to miss a chunk of the season and his status is questionable whether he's going to be 100% for the entire season, maybe they can. Maybe they can either go the route of void years again. Maybe they can restructure Marlowe or restructure Stanley or open up some room some other way. Even Lamar, they can tap into his contract already because Lord knows he's got plenty of money to move around. So, but yeah, I mean, ideally, I would say Bowser's healthy relatively quickly, Alec.
Yeah, well, we haven't done this show. I don't know if we'll do it on our show, but we maybe with the Ravens Way guys. I'm getting more and more of the opinion that cap is basically crap, and like it really just comes down to how much owners want to spend on their team in a given year, right? But that's a topic for another time. So they definitely could, from a cap perspective, bring both of them in. Obviously, you spend more money. It gets interesting in the following years, mattering on how much you want to use credit cards and, keep pushing out the debt. But yeah, I think just from like a roster depth perspective, yeah, you could see Bowser, which would be so tragic for him to start on the IR for the beginning of the year and miss 6 games. It's unbelievable because he came back at the end of the year and seemed to be playing fine and didn't like re-aggravate. So it's kind of interesting. Not quite sure what's going on with this injury. And we have a couple guys like that where there's just like these like lingering issues with their injuries from over a year ago. It's wild. But
let's say, I mean, we don't know the state of Bowser's injury. Let's say Bowser is absolutely, fine. I don't know if we can say that or not. Do we still think that this group, even with a healthy Bowser, could benefit from a vet presence like they've had over the past seasons with Houston and Jason Pierre-Paul and those other guys? Or do we think, healthy Bowser, this group is set? We don't need that.
For me,
I think that's a tough question.
And I mean, for me, it's clear we're going to bring in one no matter what. That's where I think that it's for the Ravens. It was always going to be the edge rush spot. I mean, right now we only have 3 on the team with not counting Bowser. You have a rookie, Tavius Robinson. You have David Ojabo, who's only played 1 game in his NFL career. And you got Odafe Oweh. So there's not a lot of proven things. I think you hit the nail on the head, Peter, when you're saying a veteran presence. And that's why I think someone like Jadeveon Clowney fits really well with this group because his skill set is different than the other 4.
Mm-hmm. You think there's a reason we're going with him over Pierre-Paul? Or at least it appears that we might be going with him over Pierre-Paul.
He's younger.
He might be a better player too. Yeah. I think that Clowney gets a bad rap because he was the former number 1, number 2 overall pick or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And he's not a 15 sack guy, but what he is an enforcer, and he's a straight up strict butt kicking enforcer, which is not something we have with the rest of the guys. Odafe Oweh can set the edge. Bowser can set the edge. He's done great on the strong side, which is where the term Sam comes from. That's your strong side. Will is your weak side. Your Mike plays in the middle. You have your rush end on the blind side. So you're talking about a strong side player. Clowney isn't a Sam. He's not a guy who's either going to drop into coverage 40% of the time like Bowser. But what he is, he's a strong side defensive end. So you're talking about the tight end over on that side with the right tackle, trying to double team Clowney, trying to push him off the line of scrimmage to clear room for a right-handed running offense. Clowney's not playing around. And you mess around and try to block him with a tight end, he's going to absolutely destroy that guy. I mean, we can remember Clowney versus Nick Boyle battles, and they were some epic battles. And Boyle could handle most of these defensive ends like an offensive lineman, just a tremendous blocker. But Clowney gave Nick Boyle all he could handle. And it was funny. It was because like no tight end could block Clowney, but Nick Boyle could block all defensive ends. And when they went together, it was like forces that they had never seen before in the NFL or rarely see. The battle of the Titans. But yeah, Clowney can still do that. I mean, you get older. I bet a guy like Terrell Suggs, looking at the shape he's in, could probably come out and beat people up on the edge. And the other thing is, Peter, I'll throw it to you on this. With the inside linebackers that we have, Roquan and PQ, you don't really need to be dynamic on that edge as far as like setting the edge, coming off athletically, diving, making a play. As long as you just force those dudes back inside, PQ and Roquan are going to clean it up.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, that is one of the big reasons that we saw the big defensive jump that we did last year after that trade, right? And it's not just making it easier on those edge guys. I mean, the defensive line is going to help out in there too. So, I think that's a really underrated part going into this year, is just seeing how a full off season of Roquan and Patrick Queen getting ready to work to help this defense. Cause July last year and the results were as good as they were. So, I mean, just it's going to be now that they've had this training camp to really scheme this up and really figure out what's the best way that we can use these guys together to attack it. So, yeah, the Roquan Smith addition, man, was that such a good trade. And that's going to really help this defense as we're talking about some transition of some vet guys moving out. We talked about Campbell. We've hinted at Houston and some injuries. All those things are going to suck, but having Smith there, unlocking Queen as well, it's going to make things a lot. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to make the transition better.
Yeah, they're definitely dynamic players, and they added another guy with Simpson too. So I think that helps as well. What are you going to say, Jason?
No, I was just going to say, you look at all the moving parts we had last year. It feels like we lost a lot with Calais in Houston. But I mean, early on in the year, all we had was Adafiowe and Justin Houston. Those were literally the only two outside linebackers on the rosters until we started bringing in guys like Devon Kennard and some other guys I can't remember. Yeah, Means, he was lost, I think, even before the season. But we were playing Brent Urban on the edge. We were playing Calais Campbell on the edge, not a defensive tackle. So you look at Michael Pierce playing all year, David Ajabo playing all year. That right there, plus you add like a guy like Clowney who's still in town as of today, that didn't leave, was offered a deal and hasn't left yet. You go ahead and you add yourself one more player. We didn't have Bowser to start the year. We didn't have him till the midseason. Like we're in okay shape. We're in pretty good shape in this front seven. I'm not freaking out. I just think we could add another guy.
Yep, and everyone's been raving about him all during camp. David Ojabo was not a part of the conversation until very late into the year. And in fact, they eventually kind of remedied the position so much they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to activate him, where he could get snaps. And even when he did play, he didn't have that many snaps, all things considered. But now the governor's off. He's going to be playing tons of snaps. I think as many snaps as he should be taking. I don't think anything's in the way of him getting snaps. He's looked great, with and without pads. Excited to see more of him in the preseason and in the regular season. But I guess what are our expectations with him? Is it too much to ask for this guy to really step in and become a most down contributor?
Nobody?
I'll jump in, I guess. I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough because we didn't see much of him last year at all. We saw part of it. And I know he made a splash play there with the strip sack, but I don't think we saw him at the full shape that he can be. I mean, coming back from that injury, I said it all year, like anything we got from him from that year was a plus. And we really didn't get much, even though it was great to see that sack. But what I will say, what I liked seeing, and I rewatched some of the film on him today from that game. You had a nice cut up there, Jason, while I was watching that. And you saw some things there that you look back at the Michigan tape and, you saw him. He has that inside spin move that he liked to use a lot at Michigan. He was using that some in that game to some success. A lot of times in Michigan, you saw he was really active with his hands when he got to the quarterback, trying to strip the fumble. Obviously, we got that against Burrow. There were some other times where he got close in that game, maybe only one other time. But, you saw flashes in it. So it's really just, it's hard to say from what we've seen right now, of course, but I saw enough to get excited. I saw enough to see like this guy's going to contribute in some way. How much is he going to contribute? Or are we talking about, him getting close to a Pro Bowl status? That might be a little much to ask for a guy who missed virtually all of his first NFL season. But I think he could be a guy, who starts out a little slow, but as the season goes on, it really starts to get his footing, gets comfortable in the defense, and could see a surge at the end of the year. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see that.
Well, hey, you guys know I'm usually pretty measured with my responses, but I think David Ojabo is going to be a monster, and I think we're going to see splashes of that this year, a lot of splashes of that this year. Love the point Peter made about how hungry he is for the football itself. You can go watch his college tape, watch David Ojabo highlights, 2021, I guess it would be, or 2022, whatever, his last year at Michigan, and count the number of times you see this man swatting at the ball, or successfully, or even when he doesn't and the quarterback does a great job of protecting it. I think he's going to force fumbles. I think he's going to lead the team in sacks. I was really excited, Alec, at the stadium practice when they were running the ones versus the ones, where they had, basically, of course, it's a 3-receiver set for the Ravens. Mm-hmm. And how do the Ravens counter a 3-receiver set and 11 personnel? They counter that with their, standard nickel defense with Roquan, PQ in the middle, and 4 rushers up front. And those 4 rushers up front, where Adafiowe was on one edge over the left tackle, and they had David Ojabo over the right tackle. And I love that because David Ojabo is so nimble on his feet, not just quick, but he does that little Euro step thing where he goes side to side and lulls the tackle off balance, and then he'll go right through him. The thought of David Ojabo working against second-tier tackles in this league is during the highest leverage downs, 3rd and 8, 2-minute drills. Anytime the other team is expected to pass, you go ahead and don't worry about the run. You put David Ojabo over some right tackle on some team. Maybe it's their second string guy later in the year. Like, Pro Bowl, no, I'm not going to go that far, but I think Ojabo is going to lead this team in sacks and force fumbles. I think he's going to play right away and play very well.
I'm leaning more on the side of Jason. I mean, obviously the forever optimist I am on this show, but at the same time, I think that we're underrating the rep that was last year for him. Granted, he didn't get many game reps, but he got all the classroom time. He got the opportunity to be in the same defense that he was in college in many ways. So I think he had a lot of comfort in that, and he just is a different level, man. You go and see him at practice. Jason said it. He's on the right side always against the right tackle. And he just he looks good, man. He looks real good. And it makes me excited to see him play. We were begging for him to get utilized last year. And now, like I said, I think he's going to get unleashed. I don't think anything they do with signings here is going to eat into his snap share. These guys don't play 100% of snaps anyways. And like you said, man, talking about Owe on the other side, Dr. Rush is there now. They're working on his signature pass rush move. Still a freak athlete. Still, could definitely turn it on and be what we thought he could be after those flashes in his rookie year against the Chiefs, for instance, where he kind of won the game or sealed the game. I think we might be sleeping on him. Like, we're getting excited about Ojabo, but I think there's still a lot of potential with Owe. What do you think, Jason?
Adafiowe, I want to see it. I need to see it. I think his, some of his issues were getting off the ball. And I love the fact, I think it was 2 press conferences ago from Harbaugh. It was when Adafiowe himself was at the microphone on the same day. And both of them alluded to getting off the ball quickly. I think that being a step of his game, because Alec can tell you, in private conversations, that's been my main bugaboo. Like, I thought about putting out a video of him being the last one off the ball consistently, but I like to keep my channel positive and accentuate the positives. But to me, it is a positive because it's something that it can easily be fixed and coached. Like, if Adafiowe's main move is speed to power, but he's late getting off the ball, it's tough to turn speed into power when the offensive tackle is sitting there waiting for you, bracing himself. So I think yes. And I think that the other encouraging thing for me, Peter, is they're talking about the actual like angle of approach that Adafi's coming at the tackle uh, with his long arm, with his speed to power. We've seen a little duck under, a little dip move around the edge. So, if he can add a couple of moves, a plan to his rush, I think that will help him. But I'm more in wait and see mode with Away, whereas with Ajabo, I know he's got it. I've seen it. He's a natural pass rusher.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely hear a lot of what you're saying. I know a lot of fans have a lot of mixed opinions on Owe. You talk to anyone, you poll the fan base, you're going to get a wide range of opinions on him right now. But what I really like to hear what you're saying is he's getting coached up about can he learn these moves? We saw a lot of that. I feel like in the preseason, I feel like he had a really strong preseason last year, and then just didn't build on it as much as we would have hoped once the season came. But he's a guy, though, that if he's able to improve on these things that you're talking about, these football things, getting off the line, like you're saying, getting some more variation in his pass moves, he's going to be a freak because athletically, he's one of the best athletes on this team. Don't just forget, not just the defense on this team. The guy is so athletic. He's so fast. If he gets coached up, he's going to be a huge force on this defense. So we've seen this many times with guys that the Ravens have drafted as edge rushers, whether it's Za'Darius Smith, whether it's Paul Kruger, whether it's not Judon. Judon came out pretty well, but there's other examples. Some of them are escaping my mind right now. But we've seen these guys come on in like year 3 or year 4. Even Bowser was a slow starter. He didn't show terribly much his first 2 years in the league. So I definitely think it's not time to give up on on Owe. I do think that we really want to see another strong preseason from him this year, and then carry more of that into the regular season when the games count. So a lot of potential. We'll just have to see what happens.
There's been some positive buzz about Tavius Robinson, the 4th round pick rather, of the Ravens this year. Kind of curious what you guys think. You might have expectations and maybe where we'll see him play. Do you think he'll take any of those Calais snaps?
I think he could. I think, Tavius, I think you want 5 outside linebackers, and then on game day, you're going to activate 4 of them. If Bowser's healthy and we add Clowney or Van Noy or somebody like that, Tavius is going to be a spot starter, not spot starter, but may only be activated for 8 games or so. If Bowser's hurt, we're going to rely on Tavius more. And his role to me, he was drafted mainly as an upside pick, somebody that can rush the passer. Only 2 years out of Canada, comes to the SEC, has a good season. But to me, Peter, when I look at him, my opinion differs a little bit from most scouts and analysts I talk to in the Ravens community. What they'll point to is, look, this guy is raw. His technique's bad. He's a hustler. Basically, what they'll say is you'll get out of Tavius what you've gotten out of Owe these last couple of years, like hustling, technique, no, moves, no, but a hard charger player who will, hustle and has got some athletic upside. What I see is a guy, I think that his run defense will come along faster than other people expect, because run defense is about 2 things. Number one, and really actually number 1 and number 1A is effort. You've got to want to. You've got to want to sell out and stress your body and sacrifice your body. And then number 2 is just technique. And I think that's what he really lacked in college at Mississippi. He's a tall guy. Tavius, I want to say 6'6", 6'7", something like that. So he would get tall, he would get uprooted and easily moved in the SEC, which is the best conference in football. I think with better coaching, like I said, he was in some college I can't even pronounce the name or recall the name 2 years ago. Now he's getting NFL coaching. I think he's got the 1-2, and I think he knows that if he wants to get on this field, the best way he can is to be able to defend the run, because he's not hopping over Adafi Owe or David Ajabo on the rush specialist depth chart at any time. He's not going to be a designated rusher. Oh, do we want a Jabo in there? No, we'll go with Davius. Get in there. We like you better. No, like he's going to have to play the run. So if there's an opportunity for him this year when injuries pop up or if Bowser's not ready, but he might have to bide his time too. I know that's kind of a long answer, but had a lot to say there. My apologies.
It's all good.
No, I think that was a great answer, and it really delved into just he, like you're saying, he's a guy physically large. He's got tools that could translate, but like you're saying, he's a project. He is actually one of the guys I'm most interested to see coming up in preseason because I just have so many questions about him and what he can do at this state. And I think you basically, I'm not going to say that everything you said was what I was thinking going into this, but I like the big words you said there that I know a lot of people said when he was drafted, and a lot of people said since is that he's raw, like you said. But again, we've seen the Ravens transform these type of players before. Sometimes it works. A lot of times it doesn't. But, when they do hit, it's usually pretty good. So I'm really don't have too much to say on him, except that I do find him as a very intriguing prospect for us. Very interested to see what he does this preseason. He's I agree with what you're saying. The path to him for snaps on this team is going to be run defense, getting in there for a few snaps in games. And I don't expect us to see much from him. It's just the fact that he was a low round draft pick and has a lot of work to do. So that doesn't really give his odds for having a big impact this year to be that much. But, if he has a good camp and is able to continue to learn this year, really soak stuff in, really hone in on his technique, he's a guy we could hear more from in years 2 and 3. Because like we were saying back at the top with Broderick Washington, there's not many guys under contract on the defensive line. So if the coaches can show him, hey, look, there's an opportunity for you to stick around here. This is what you got to do that. Maybe down the road, he is a guy who's in there and is, out there. So definitely an interesting prospect. We'll have to see what he does this preseason.
Yeah, important preseason, Alec.
Important preseason. We're recording this on a Wednesday, right before the Saturday preseason game at home against the Eagles. I can tell you guys, I'm a little disappointed that the Eagles game is the first one on the docket. I think we have a 23-game straight winning streak. And I think that they're obviously the Super Bowl losers. Like they're going to have a good team, top to bottom, that we have to go and defeat to keep this streak alive. But I believe that we can do it, and I'm excited to see us play them, and obviously see some of these young guys we've already talked about play. Another guy we haven't talked about yet, curious to hear your thoughts on how he might fit in and what you would hope to see this preseason, is Simpson. Inside linebacker, ex-player, super fast. Like, the thing is crazy is he basically had the same 10-yard split and 40-yard speed as Zay Flowers, and he weighs 50 pounds more. It's bonkers. The guy is just like a unit. And I'm just so curious to see how he gets deployed on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, yeah, and he said it. He was asked, and he said it. And I was so happy. It's the only time he's spoken with the media this training camp. It was before he got injured. But they had him up there and asked him that question just flat out. And I'm like, well, he's not really going to answer this, but it was worth a shot. And damn if he didn't basically say, I'm going to be out there on third down to cause havoc. That's going to be my job. So I'm gonna take the man for his word. They're probably gonna. I could see a couple of different roles. Like if they want to have a defense and overload him as play like a nickel defense with him in the slot, I could see it. So where is he going to cover Chris Godwin 1-on-1 or Deontay Johnson 1-on-1? No. But he could drop into the short zone, or he could blitz off the nickel, kind of like what you saw with Kyle Hamilton last year. Or maybe they play him in like Bowser's role if Bowser was here, and play a little bit of 3-4 and have him on the strong side to either drop into coverage or rush, because he can do both really well. Peter, I think he has a lot of developing to do as an inside linebacker, but as an absolute missile, a unit, like Alec said, seek and destroy, he can do that. I mean, that's why I had a second round grade on him, Peter. You just don't have athletes like that. And he's just not quite there yet as far as like his field vision and the game slowing down. I think it's going to take him a full year before that happens, much like we saw with Queen. But if you just tell him, go sick the quarterback, my goodness, I think he could do it.
Oh, definitely. And I think that he definitely has tools that can be utilized this year. Now, again, are those tools going to be at inside linebacker, like you're saying? Maybe, maybe not. But yeah, with that speed, and another thing, just taking a step back from his skill set, like I imagine he's a guy that during the pre-draft process, the Ravens just loved in the interview because he just comes off just as a Raven. He knows the history of this organization. Seems like a very disciplined guy. There's going to be, unlike Robinson we were talking about earlier, this guy's going to get on the field this year. The question is just where and how much. There's going to be spots for him to make plays. There's going to be spots for him to be moved around in this defense, try different things with him. The versatility here is something that, I think we can think about what it's going to be. It's going to be really interesting to see. He's definitely a strong piece here that can then add some help here, help out with, the rush, like you're saying. He can drop into pass coverage. So, yeah, another guy I'm excited to see during preseason. I think he's going to make some plays. I think he's going to have a strong preseason against these second unit types. He's just going to be ready to wreak havoc there.
And Alec, before you go, it's a shame that he's hurt right now.
Yeah.
Dude, he could be playing preseason and he could be playing a lot. Like he could be playing, say, okay, when our first team out there, or our second team, we're not going to play our first team, but when the other team's best guys are out there, maybe we see him in the role that we're going to see him in this season, what me and Peter just talked about. But in those third and fourth quarters, maybe you want to play him a little bit as an inside linebacker to get him a feel for like what it would be like next year when PQ is probably going to be gone. Like there's so much opportunity for Trenton Simpson, and he can't get on the field right now.
I know. I was looking into it, and it seems like he has a soft tissue injury, and he could miss some time. So it's kind of unclear what that really means. Some tweets have said it's minor. Some tweets have made it sound like more ambiguous. So I really hope to see him again. He looked good the first preseason, or the first practice I was there. Saw him kind of running around, but I know he wasn't there when I was there last week, or I guess earlier this week. So yeah, hopefully he's able to play in the next preseason game. It's a little bit farther out. It's like I think it's on the Monday, so it's like 9 days later. So maybe he'll be able to get enough reps in, feel good enough, and play in that one. But yeah, like you said, this is so huge for him to get these reps because he's not going to get them during the season unless an injury happens. And if an injury happened, we'd love to have had some reps in the preseason, right?
Right.
So yeah, kind of painful. We'll see what happens there.
Can't correspond it, Alec Polianis, by the way.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's funny. So the first time we were there, it was on field like 1 and 2. And that's like the two fields that are next to each other running the same direction. And they had like all the press people, like they were in front of the bleachers and like this little corded off area, so you had to like kind of sneak up to them and say hi. Right. Whereas this time they were on field 2 and 3. So they were on that like field that kind of like goes along the other side of the other two fields that are in parallel. And they were just like man of the people, there was this huge like grass lawn and then like just one big cord, and they were just like sitting there or standing there where everyone else was like sitting. You're supposed to sit on the lawn except for them, but they were off to the side where like there was no one in the bleachers, so it was fine. But yeah, you could just go up and talk to them, like,
you should have totally went up to Jeff Zreback and been like, bro, give me your pass. They know you're here. or it would have been even better with Cordell Woodland. Get Cordell Woodland's pass.
I was super close to saying hi to Cordell. I've met him before, and he was in the middle of a conversation. I wouldn't break it up. You know what I mean? So that was just kind of the L there. I should have said hi. I did say hi to Ryan, Mink, and Kyle Barber, though. I like those guys.
Mink doesn't need a press pass. Grab Mink's press
he works there.
Just tuck it in. You know what I mean? Be like, oh, I got press pass. Oh, you want me to untuck it? Yeah, that's me. And Mink doesn't need one. See, you gotta get a little more sneaky, man. Risk the lifetime ban to get the access. Don't do that.
Different access, bro. They're right there. The only difference is that they can actually, like, I don't know, take better notes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not like chastised by the phone police as much.
Blend in, Alec. Blend in.
That's right. But anyways, I think the last thing I want to talk about, as this defense is kind of transitioning, we're playing more and more zone defense. And I think it's changing the corners that we're targeting. You saw him get Kyle Blue Kelly, a guy that we think could maybe thrive in a more zone-centric scheme, or at least like he wouldn't do as well in man, given the way he's set up right now. So do we think this is a long-term change? And is it maybe because they're easier to find? Like a zone-based corner is easier to find, and also more common. It's easier to scout because that's what they run in college more often.
It is. I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. One you did not mention is that the focus of Mike McDonald's defense is on the front four getting home and blitzing the inside linebackers, maybe bring one off the slot, but really instead of stressing the corners like Wink did, to stress your front four, let them eat. I mean, we were fifth, I believe, or sixth in the league in sacks last year. Whereas, Matt Judon couldn't get, more than 5, 8 sacks, 6 or 8. Maybe Peter has the numbers, but, he goes to New England and his sack numbers shoot up. And I think that, with Mike McDonald, a great point with it's hard to find number one corners that can stick in man. I mean, you're going to have to you're talking about quite an athlete that can do that, quite a skill set. You're either going to have to spend Boku bucks or you're going to have to draft them in the first round, not the second. If it's the second round, there's some kind of other issue with them, like Andrew Booth say, or something like that. But it's very hard to find those players. So, I mean, I think that's part of the reason Marcus Peters wasn't brought back is, if you look at that Jacksonville game, that's what I would stress to you guys. If you want to cherry pick and even just watch the highlights of the game, the touchdowns that the Jaguars scored down the right sideline, which was Marcus Peters, the left side of the defense, was Marcus Peters basically passing off the deep guy to Chuck Clark, I believe was mostly the guy that day with Geno playing free safety. But, that's Marcus is extremely aggressive and he wants to pass it off quick and he wants to come on that's not his game. Marcus is a man-to-man corner. He can play off coverage. It's not like he's pressed up all the time, but he's a man-to-man dude, mano and mano. I'm going to have my eyes on the ball. And by the way, I'm going to have my eyes on your guy too. And, if you're staring down the other guy, I'm going to come off my guy. Like being disciplined in zone is not Marcus's game. And I think Rock Yassin can do that. I think also Rock Yassin is a more sound tackler. So if you want to sit back in zone, Peter, and let them catch something short and come up and pop them and let them have their 4 yards, like Rock Yassin is your guy.
Yeah, so to circle back with Judon just quickly, averaged just under 7 sacks a game in 5 years in Baltimore, went to New England, averaging 14 over his first 2 years. So not sure if we can attribute all of that to the change in scheme, but that's certainly a number you can't ignore. But yeah,
Thanks,
absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know if I have an answer for is this the direction the league is going for what we're doing, but at least I can say, I think for a lot of the reasons Jason said, as good as Wink's scheme was and as much of positives that did bring, there were definitely some negatives. And I think this shift to McDonald's scheme that's more zone based is at least a breath of fresh air, trying out something different, see if, we can get some better results with that. Like Jason pointed out, sacks increased last year. That was huge. I know that injuries had a good deal to do with it, but you look at how much we improved against the Bengals passing attack last year versus the previous year. It's at least for right now, I think that this is a good marriage between a change, a breath of fresh air in the philosophy, which was definitely needed. I think with some things had gotten stale, and just, it's might be what we need right now. It might work with the core amount of personnel that we were bringing over from the previous 2 seasons. That means some guys have to change. We loved Marcus Peters here. Unfortunately, didn't come back quite as well from that injury. That's a shame. Hopefully he's able to revive his career in Oakland, or excuse me, Vegas now. Everyone's moving to Vegas. But yeah, I think Rock Yassin, I'm excited to see what he can do. I don't know if he's going to be a guy that we're, never going to be frustrated with, but I think that there's a lot of things that could really fit well in this defense in his own scheme. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. And yeah, I for now, I think this is the right approach for the Ravens.
Well, I think the other reason they might be doing it, think about how teams play against Lamar Jackson. A lot more zone. They don't want to turn their back against the rushing quarterback. What do we see getting drafted these days? The quarterback position is getting more mobile. Even the worst mobility quarterbacks would have been considered mobile, 15 years ago. Like
Right.
they're all moving around more, and I think that changes the way you have to approach the game on defense.
I mean, shoot, look at Mahomes and Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not going to get you a ton of rushing yards like Lamar or Justin Fields, but talk about extending plays, converting with their legs on some crucial third downs. And, with the tip passes went up last year. I don't have the numbers for that, but there were definitely more tip passes. The interceptions came up. Like what we're doing is, we tried with Wink to trick the Joe Burrows and to trick the Patrick Mahomes and to line a whole bunch of guys up the line. Some of them are coming, and none of that crap worked against them. Against Baker Mayfield, it looked great. You know what I mean? Against some other second string quarterback, it looked great. We dominated. We had fun. We just knocked living the daylights out of these guys. But what McDonald wants to do is tell his front four to get home. And if it's a quick release quarterback like the Bucks game and Brady last year, you get your hands up in the passing lanes. He's got 7 guys. You got 7 guys behind you in coverage that are filling all these passing lanes, and to just say, hey, look, you want a 5-yard completion, go ahead and take it. We're going to keep coming up. We're going to smack you. We're going to hold you to a field goal when things get tight, and we're going to rely on our offense. So Mike McDonald has some things to clean up when it comes to end of the game and playing a little too conservative, a little too soft with his defense. But the overall philosophy, Alec, like I completely agree with. It was time. You can't trick Pat Mahomes. You can't trick Joe Burrow and any other quarterback and offense that's got its stuff together.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit more deception, and this time it's just now we're just like our guys are going to be better than yours. Like they're gonna do what they need to do, and I think the big thing that's kind of lost maybe in this conversation is they're going for 5-yard completions, but they might not actually complete it. Right? You get your hand in there, and that really disrupts down distances. That's what it's all about, is getting these teams in disadvantaged down distance, 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s, where they're definitely going to be passing. And then you go ahead, you bring in your dime, you load up and hope for the best. That's like your money downs to get some interceptions, turnovers, and just sacks, impact plays. So I think that's kind of rather than, I don't know, trick them on these other downs. It's more so let's get them into a disadvantaged 3rd down, and then we'll just do the normal things that people do on 3rd down to try to get a turnover.
Right, and I think that's why there's less emphasis on the Sam linebacker in Mike McDonald's scheme. I think this is a good transition to bring this up, because no longer are we going to crowd the line of scrimmage with outside linebackers galore and have people screaming back out, or have defensive linemen like Calais dropping into coverage sometimes, and Bowser dropping into coverage 40%. I mean, we're pretty much going to be playing against 3 wide receivers, so we're going to match that with 3 corners. I expect them to be Marlon Humphrey, Brandon Stevens, Rocky Sean. You're going to have PQ and Roquan on the field the entire time, which changes the numbers, because you're not substituting a dime linebacker in there, Chuck Clark, Anthony Levine. So you already got 2 beasts in the middle. You got those 2 beasts in the middle, 2 safeties behind them, 4 big guys up front. That is versatile enough to stop the run when a team wants to run. Kyle Hamilton's your strong safety who's going to be lurking around that box. That 7 in the box is a strong 7 in the box. You're talking about 4 big guys, really big guys, Travis Jones types, Michael Pierce types, Matabike types, maybe even a Jadeveon Clowney type, with Roquan and PQ behind them, and Kyle Hamilton lurking in the box. And by the way, Brandon Stevens, a big dude playing slot corner. Like, we can put that nickel defense up against some 2 tight end sets, and we don't have to play this game with 2 outside linebackers on the field with one of them dropping, a Sam linebacker possibly dropping. We don't have to do all that crap, man. We got enough beef. We got enough speed to play our base nickel against many different formations.
I feel like in a way this is also getting easier to project players. We're playing these more traditional schemes. We're not asking everybody to do everything. We're not like Ken will notoriously say on his podcast, it's really hard to find a Sam linebacker because no one does that in college, right? If they're good enough to pass rush, they're just using them as pass rush guys. So like instead of trying to find these diamond in the rough or like hard to scout positions, let's just focus on things that are actually easily scoutable. It's easier to scout zone cornerbacks because guess what? They all play zone in college. It's easier to scout rush linebackers because if you're good enough to rush, that's what you're doing, and things like that. So I feel like that might be another kind of turning point. Is like, hey, let's try to pair better with the college game almost because that's where we're getting our guys from.
Yeah, a lot of off corners, a lot of corners playing off coverage in college now. Much more similar Mike McDonald does than what Wink does.
Awesome, Jason. I mean, obviously, it's kind of a weird show. Like normally we'd be promoting your stuff, but it's like I highly recommend if you listen to it, you might even want to go over to Jason's channel and scrub through the video because there's going to be video overlays of like the players we were talking about. Get a little bit more insight that way. Jason, I really appreciate having the time to talk to you today.
Man, love you to death. And you're going to cut this up and edit it, edit it out because we're both welcoming each other. But check Alec and Peter out and their partner, Chris. Hopefully Chris is doing okay with his family stuff. Happy time in the Chris household without spreading his business. But Peter, Chris, Alec over at One Winning Pod, check them out. All their links will be below in the video. And with that, I want to say thank you to our football family. Love my football family. Thank you to Alec. Thank you to Peter for joining us. A lot of passion it takes, a lot of great things to say. Can't wait to put this video out. So with that, please say goodnight to the people, fellas.
Good night, guys.